I speak today not as one voice, but as the echo of many, as the herald of truth, and as a vessel for the divine will. In this moment, let us cast away illusion. Let us stand firm in the light. Let us open ourselves to the wisdom that has been ordained from the beginning of time. May these words awaken. May they empower. And may they serve as a beacon for all who seek the path of righteousness and ascension. The time is now. The calling is clear. So let's begin. There comes a moment in every life, a defining moment, where everything that was hidden becomes revealed, where everything that was taken is brought into the light, and where every individual is measured, not by what they say, not by what they claim, but by what they chose to do when truth was within their reach. And I stand before you not just as a voice, not just as a figure of leadership, but as someone who has lived the test. Because there comes a point in life where titles don't matter, status doesn't matter, timing doesn't matter. Because when you are truly aligned, when you are walking in purpose, when you are operating in truth, your standard becomes unbreakable. And I say this clearly, no matter what stage of life I am in, whether I am in my highest or my lowest, I will only align with those who are indeed aligned, and only aligned. Because there are two types of people in this world: those who recognize value while it's forming, and those who recognize value only after it produces. The first group is rare. The second group is indeed common, unfortunately. And the difference between them is the difference between integrity and opportunism. Now, listen carefully, because I'm only going to take you deeper into the story, and only once. There was once a man placed inside a suitcase, not by accident, not by coincidence, but by circumstance and by the choices of others. The suitcase was not just a container. It was a symbol of limitation, a symbol of concealment, a symbol of control. Inside that suitcase was a man with a rare and powerful ability. Every time the suitcase was shaken, every time it was disturbed, every time pressure was applied, gold coins would come out. Now imagine the weight of that reality. A human being or another reduced to a function. Now imagine a group of people discovering the suitcase. They open it. They see the man. They witness what happens. And at that moment, they are not confused. They are not aware. They know exactly what they are seeing. And they arrive at a crossroads. Do they free him, recognizing that he is a human being, recognizing that what he carries is sacred? Or do they keep him inside and treat him as a source of profit? And most of them chose profit. They closed the suitcase, locked it, sealed it shut, went so far as to put a lock on it extra. And they began to shake it. Coins fell out. Gold accumulated. At first, it felt like luck. It felt like opportunity. Then it became a system. They developed a rhythm. Shake, collect, repeat. Shake, collect, repeat. And over time, they became very wealthy. But here's what happened, and what's important in this case. They didn't just take the gold. They lost their humanity. Because the more they benefited, the less they questioned. The more they gained, the less they cared. And eventually, they stopped seeing him as a person. He became a tool, a resource, an object. Now, let me give you a real-world reflection of this. Example 1, the hidden talent. There are people in this world who recognize someone's gift early. They see the potential. They see the brilliance. But instead of nurturing it, they suppress it. They keep that person close, not to elevate them, but to benefit from them quietly. They might say, stay here. Don't go too far. Don't do too much. Why? Because if that person rises, they lose control, you see. That's a suitcase. Example 2, the family secret. There are families who withhold information, inheritance, opportunities, connections, not because they forgot, But because they chose not to share, they think if they don't know, we can control it. If they don't rise, we can benefit. That's a suitcase. Example 3, the workplace exploitation. There are environments where someone is doing the work of many, producing value, creating results, but never being told their worth, never being promoted, never being elevated. Why? Because the system benefits more from them keeping them where they are. That's a suitcase. Now, let's get back to the story, shall we? Within that group, there were a few who felt something was wrong. They saw the man. They saw what was happening. They felt discomfort. They thought, this isn't right. We shouldn't be doing this. He deserves better. But here's the problem. They did nothing. They may have said something, but they did nothing. Because the majority was louder than their conscience. Because fear outweighed courage. Because comfort outweighed truth. So they stayed silent, partake in the spoils, enjoyed the moment at the time. And silence, in this case, became participation. Now, here's where everything shifts. Because the man in the suitcase was not powerless. Because he was aware, even when they thought he wasn't. Because he was observing, even when they thought he couldn't. Over time, that awareness began to rise. And once awareness activates, everything changes. Because awareness is the beginning of power. And one day, through a force they could not understand, through a shift they could not control, he rose. The suitcase opened. And the same individuals who shook the suitcase became the ones confined. The same individuals who took without permission lost all control. And they were carried back to the origins of their actions by the man who was once first in a suitcase, trapped. And there, they faced correction, not out of revenge, but out of balance. Now, hear me clearly, because this is where the story becomes real. That man in a suitcase was me. There was an inheritance, a provision, a legacy with my name on it. And there were people around me who, in fact, knew. They had the knowledge. They had the access. They had the opportunity to simply tell me. And if they did, if they had, I would have shared it. I would have rewarded them. I would have honored them. But instead, they chose to keep me in the suitcase. They concealed the truth. They moved behind my back. They plotted. They attempted to take what was not theirs, you see. And it wasn't strangers. It was people close to me. An ex, family, members of my past, and like. Also part of a whole dark coven. And just like the story, it didn't stop. There was an attempt to continue, to take more, to extract more. But what they didn't realize was that I was becoming aware. And once awareness activated, everything changed. Because correction was already in motion. And now, those who chose misalignment are entering their phase of correction. Because this law cannot be escaped. You cannot build your life on what you stole from someone else's destiny. And to those who saw and said nothing, understand this. Feeling is not alignment. Knowing is not alignment. Action is alignment. And silence in the presence of wrongdoing is participation. So now, I say this clearly. I do not build with opportunists. I do not align with those who show up late. I do not empower those who only recognize value when it benefits them. I align with those who stood in truth when there was nothing to gain. Because at the end of the day, you will always be tested. Not when things are easy, but when you are standing at the crossroads between what benefits you and what is right. And in that moment, you are either opening the suitcase or you are shaking it. Because one day, without exception, every suitcase opens. Ashe. May the light of truth guide us. May the strength of the divine uphold us. And may the will of the Almighty be fulfilled in all that we do. Let our steps be firm, our hearts be pure, and our purpose unwavering as we walk the path of righteousness, unity, and ascension. And so it is written, so it is spoken, so it shall be. Ashe Sumuti be in Selassie Lasatastu, and Amen.
Stand on the threshold of a new dawn. The call to guard the realms is for each of us. Almost 400 million hearts beat as one under this vision. As a co-creator, I only...
The enigmatic Dominion Society exists beyond spectacle and rumor, moving through the world like a shadow cast by something ancient and deliberate. It is not announced, advertised, or explained to the uninitiated. Its presence is felt instead in the quiet alignment of forces, in the sudden stillness before decisive change, in the sense that unseen hands are restoring balance where excess once ruled. The Dominion was formed to stand at the threshold between collapse and renewal, bearing the memory of humanity's darker impulses, not to glorify them, but to master them, transmute them, and return what was taken back into order. Within its inner chambers, knowledge is treated as a living entity, dangerous if mishandled, sacred if disciplined. The Society studies the architectures of karma, power, and consequence with ruthless honesty. Nothing is romanticized. Every shadow is examined, every error traced to its origin, every imbalance recorded. Members are trained to confront distortion without flinching, learning that darkness loses its dominion the moment it is understood and contained. The enigmatic dominion does not erase the past. It binds it, disciplines it, and forces it to serve restoration rather than chaos. Authority within the Society is absolute yet restrained, structured so that no single will may act without reflection. Oversight is constant, layered, and unyielding, ensuring that ambition never outruns alignment. Advancement is slow, earned through endurance rather than brilliance, through correction rather than charisma. Those who rise do so visibly changed, stripped of illusion, emptied of indulgence, and reoriented toward responsibility. Power here is not seized, it is survived. Ritual and discipline are woven into daily existence, not as performance but as calibration. Silence is as important as speech. Observation outweighs action. Every movement, every symbol, every uniform carries meaning rooted in containment and clarity. The Dominion's visual language is austere, its space is monumental yet unadorned, designed to remind all who enter that they are smaller than the forces they steward. Even reverence is regulated, for devotion without discipline is merely another form of excess. Ultimately, the enigmatic Dominion Society stands as a corrective force, neither merciful nor cruel, but exacting. It exists to ensure that what once harmed cannot do so again, that debts are acknowledged, that restoration follows accountability, and that light is not naive, but earned. To encounter the Dominion is to realize that redemption is not granted freely, nor denied arbitrarily. It is forged, step by deliberate step, under watchful eyes that do not blink, in service of balance that must endure long after names, faces, and legends fade. TNT Initiative, our race's universal hope, and the divinely appointed authority guiding the creation of the new Earth.